white minority rule. In 1991, he was elected ANC president to replace his ailing friend, Oliver Tambo. In 1993, he and President F.W. de Klerk jointly won the Nobel Peace Prize. And on 27th April
at TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first.
So not everyone who applies get the loan?
So absolutely not. No, unfortunately, clearly we can only give the loan to people who are eligible. So there's some criteria that essentially establishes eligibility. But what I can tell you is that it's very, very soft in terms of what is required. And so many people will get the loan.
Run us through those criteria very quickly.
Okay, all right. So the law requires this loan to be given to Nigerians. So Nigerian citizens, and the way we establish that is by having a national identification number. Another criteria is that clearly this is about education, certainly at this phase. Education into tertiary institutions, which requires you to have a JAMB number. So if you don't have that, unfortunately, you won't be eligible. That also cross-checks through to the institution.
Okay, so I don't think anyone can get to, if you don't have a JAMB number. Some people don't write JAMB to get to universities.
This is true. However, in this case, what we're encouraging people to do is to go and write their JAMB, because this is a major requirement.
So without writing JAMB, you can access the loan?
Without having a JAMB number, unfortunately, you can't access the loan for the stage.
Why so, though?
Well, I think
do you think that captures, do you think more Nigerian students wrote JAMB before they got to school? Have you done that maths to know whether you're not disenfranchising a tangible number of Nigerian students?
So the data that we have tells us that most students have written JAMB. However, we recognize that some haven't, and we're encouraging those who haven't to go and do so. This is a long-term program. It's about education. We've got to get it right from the beginning.
You mean even as an undergraduate, you can still go back to write it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the eligibility criteria is that you must have JAMB. So, yes, of course, you can go back to write JAMB. If you're in a tertiary institution, a university, a polytechnic, a college of education, then really you should have a JAMB number. That's what the criteria that has been set requires, because, you know, we can't make this an open-ended thing. It's got to be something that's driven by criteria and eligibility. And so that has to be. Just to add to the other eligibility criteria you talked about, BVN, so again, people must be financially included. They must be able to pay the loan back through a proper financial system. And then they should be properly registered, either to gain admission into a tertiary institution, or they should already be there with what you said earlier, a JAMB number. Absolutely critical.
So you have to be a Nigerian, you must be a student, it's an education loan, you need a JAMB number, BVN.
Yes.
Do you need NIN as well?
Yes, of course. That's the demonstration that you're a Nigerian. So if you have an NIN, that actually proves your citizenship of the great nation Nigeria.
Doesn't sound difficult anyways from the way it looks here. But the first phase we understand is strictly for students of government-owned tertiary institutions?
Yes,
right?
so actually the law requires us only to provide these loans for those in state-owned, government-owned tertiary institutions. Now, the President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, has indicated that he would like to see this extended to all Nigerian citizens. The law as it sits today only allows us to offer these loans to those who are.
So you will have to go back to the National Assembly to review.
We would have to go back, because they're the ones who can change the law. They hold the powers to change the law in Nigeria. We would have to go back. But we're not there yet. What we're doing at the moment is we're rolling this out in phases. So we're going to start, or we have started, with the federal institutions. We're gathering data for the state-owned institutions. And then when we've done this and been able to learn exactly how this can best work and the funds that are at our disposal, we can then begin to talk to the National Assembly, perhaps at some point in the future, about extending it. But it's not ruled out. But for this phase, we just need to ensure that we implement this properly, fairly, equitably, and within the law.
How long is this first phase?
So we estimate that in 3 months, we'll be able to roll this out to state institutions.
Okay.
Now, the way this works is that it's entirely online. So you don't need to know anybody, you don't need to interface with anybody. Essentially, you go into the system and it verifies all the details that I spoke about earlier. And the final check is to establish that you're in fact in an institution. That requires some sort of handshake and collaboration with the existing institutions, the universities, the colleges of education, the polytechnics. Currently at federal level, we're busy gathering data for the state institutions and cleaning the data that we have for the federal institutions so that we get to a point where it's completely seamless.
And this is good because this is where some will find out that they're actually not they do not have substantive admission into schools because, you know, when we're in school, a lot of that happened in the final year. But we're also hearing that you're having issues with some federal tertiary schools who are yet to upload data of their students on the dashboard. What's that about?
So that's really about, you know, communication. So, you know, we've obviously communicated to the schools. They have their own internal systems and responsibilities. Remember that a lot of them haven't had to do this before. So they're going through a process of cleaning their data, making sure it's accurate, and then making sure that somebody within the institution is responsible for uploading the data onto the platform that we have created. So I don't want to, you know, throw stones. I don't want to cast aspersions. I don't want to get into a blame game. But clearly, we are working very closely with them, and they're also cooperating very well with us. And our hope is that very soon we'll be able to get all the data and clean data.
Is that hindering the processing of the application in any way?
Yeah, of course, because it's entirely data-driven. If there's no data there, no loan application can be confirmed. If there's data there and there's a digit wrong or a you know, a numeric digit wrong or an alphabet wrong within the you know, the various numbers that we're requiring, then again that's going to cause problems. But you know, you find this with every IT-driven project in the world.
Absolutely.
The data must be absolutely there and it must be absolutely accurate.
You try to make it sound easy, but it can also pose a major limitation or hindrance to what you're doing. For instance, if a student's data is not on this dashboard, how does that individual move, you know, proceed in his or her application?
Okay. So look, one of the things we've done is that we've put in a proper ticketing system, which means that if you have any issues proceeding with your application, then you can come to us and we will troubleshoot and identify where the issue is and then share that information with the student or with the institution to ensure that that is corrected. These are natural teething problems with any IT-driven project. You will encounter issues. It's just about how you escalate, how you ticket, how you ensure that you have proper reporting, and then how you fix the problem.
So in 3 months, this is expected to get to state universities?
That's our expectation. So as I said, we're very busy gathering a lot of information from 50-odd state institutions just to ensure that we have the data and all the students that they have either coming in or already registered. And we think that that process will take about 3 months.
What about those who are willing to acquire vocational skills and qualification?
Okay, so that's a phase that we're not going to really kick off until about 6 or 7 months down the line. And I'll tell you why. A lot of the people, not all of them, a lot of the people who wish to acquire vocational enhancement, if you like, or studies, from our research, are largely currently unbanked. Some of them don't have NINs. Some of them don't have some of the basic requirements. For example, JAM would not work in that group of people. And it's a much larger group of people. So we're having to work really from scratch to see how we can identify these people, bring them into the financial system, bring them into the formal recognized identity system. That's going to take quite a bit of doing. But actually, we think that that's worthwhile because that's really where the biggest impact will be felt in a country as large as ours. And the President, in his wisdom, added this to our portfolio. And we're very excited to be in the throes of doing this now. But that's going to take some more time because we have to gather the data.
Do we have an idea the number of students we have as we speak? And so I'm just concerned about this loan is not meant for everyone, right? If you can afford your education, you're not supposed to apply. Do you think that is a message that is out there?
Well, Yes, I think it's a message that's out there. I think you're going to find that. So first of all, let me deal with the numbers that you asked for. We think there are about 1.8, 1.9 million
in tertiary institutions.
In tertiary institutions,
both federal and state.
Well, yes, federal and state.
Okay.
The numbers that are in the federal institutions about 1.2 million. Okay. So we kind of have an understanding of the numbers of people who are potentially going to apply. It's worth remembering that within those numbers are foreign students. So there's some students from abroad who actually study in Nigerian institutions. So we have a sense of the numbers, of the total numbers. However, we recognize that not everybody will want the loan. We recognize that, not everybody who wants the loan is prepared to take, the stipend, for example, because there are 2 tracks. But we expect a lot more applications than people in the educational system, because people, there's pent-up demand. People want to try just to see if they can get it. But unfortunately, some of them may be disappointed because there is a process that we must follow. And that process, I think, gives us a cap.
Well, this process doesn't show whether you need the money or not, right?
Right, so that's a good point. I think one of the things that we're trying to do, and if you remember, I said we asked for the BVN. One of the things that we are asking students is to give us an indication of their level of need. Okay, in this country today, it's quite difficult to determine who has savings, who hasn't. And that's one of the reasons we're looking at the BVN, because that gives us an indication of who's banked.
So you're going to be spying into people's accounts?
Well, spying is probably too harsh a word to use. However, it's in our best interest to protect taxpayers' money, to ensure that we're not handing out money to people who don't need it, and therefore depriving those who do of having access to those funds. We have to be sure, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we give these funds to people who really need it, not to those who are just trying.
Okay, so someone who has a million naira in their account is not likely going to get this loan.
Well, the truth about it is that how much are these loans? These loans are, 200, 300, 400,000 for, institutional fees. If you have a million naira in your account, there's probably going to be some explanation for you having it there, but we would rather give these loans to people who have 100 naira in their accounts than to people who have a million naira in their accounts. You can imagine that, it's a moving line, and we've got to be sure that we're not discriminating against somebody because they have money in their account. They might be able to account for it in a particular way. It may not be regular funds, but clearly what we're looking at is those who are getting regular funding from whatever source are less likely to be eligible for this than those who are really hard up and are able to really tell where their next session fees are going to come from.
How much does each student get, and does it cover for accommodation, feeding, and every other expenses you will need as a student?
Okay, so the good news around this is that we will cover 100% of the institutional fees.
Okay.
So whatever the institution charges the student, if the loan is approved for that individual, we'll cover that 100%. In terms of the stipend, that is going to be a figure that will be determined by a number of things. One, your means. Secondly, perhaps where you're studying. There might be a greater requirement for you to have more funds if you're in an inner city institution than if you're in a rural institution. The student themselves may say, look, I only want a proportion of the stipend. So this will be determined based on information that they provide us. We'll have an algorithm that will give us a view on what Mr. Nifemi perhaps should get vis-a-vis Mr. Sawyer. So we're looking at it carefully. That is a variable figure on that side. But on the side of the access to education, the institutional charges, we are going to pay 100% without option.
Sounds good. Does a single application means that you get the loan throughout your stay in school, or you have to apply again for another session?
Okay, thank you for that question, and it's important that I clarify this. The fact that you gain admission in the first year doesn't mean you will remain in the same institution or in the same course for the second year. So this is done on the basis of a yearly application. Students, sadly, all kinds of things happen to people in their first year. Some die, some suffer a debilitating illness, some are involved in accidents that stop them from being able to proceed or proceed for a period of time. In that case, we can probably halt the loan if it's a temporary stop, and then they can apply again. What is interesting about what we're doing is that once you register for the loan, you create an account with an L fund. Once that account is created, all that you require for the loan for the next session is really to demonstrate that you have passed through to the following year and that the institution has registered you to go into the second level or the third level or the fourth level or the 500 level. It's essential that this is done yearly because, again, we have to protect the funds, which belongs to the taxpayer, and we've got to make sure that we're only giving it to people who are perhaps not professional.
And you're confident this process will be seamless?
We are confident that this process will be seamless. What we are trying to do is ensure that there's no human interface. We're trying to ensure that you don't need to know anybody, you don't need to be special in society to an individual. We're trying to eliminate graft. So one of the things we've done with the new, or when the President retransmitted this act to the House earlier on this year, is to try and take out the requirement for gateways, gatekeepers, graft, guarantors, so that the process can be seamless electronically.
So you don't need a guarantor?
No, you don't need a guarantor at all.
How do you now ensure the payback?
Well, so the payback obligation is going to rest where applicants or loanees are employed. It's going to sit with the employer. So the employer is going to have to reference a site that will give an indication as to whether that individual that they're about to employ has a loan or not. If they do, then the obligation, the legal obligation, is on the employer to ensure that deductions are made and transferred directly to offset the loan. In the case of loanees who become self-employed, they make a declaration to the effect that as soon as they are able to start paying back, in other words, as soon as they become profitable and are able to pay themselves a salary, they will pay a certain percentage back to the loan fund. It's really important that I make this clarification. This scheme does not seek to penalize applicants.
Defaulters.
It doesn't. However, it will do if the defaulter has lied or told an untruth in whilst they're applying for the loan, or if the employer fails to carry out the proper checks or fails to make the remittances back into the loan fund. So self-employed people need to be a little bit careful. Employers need to be very focused on understanding, that actually they have an obligation to play to return taxpayers' money.
We're definitely going to talk more about this. It sounds like you're putting a lot of trust in the ability of Nigerians to do what is right. And hope you don't get your fingers burnt. I'm just kidding. Hold that thought. We're going to talk much more about it in a while. Let us get to the National Assembly, where Mr. President has been expected. Tijesu Adeoye is there right now. Tijesu, what's happening right now? Do you have more clarity as to Mr. President's visit? And I think you also have someone there you want to speak with.
Yes, Nifemi, the spirit here is very, very high. A lot of people here. We've seen advance team from the president, expecting the arrival of the president. We've seen some ministers. We've spoken to them. We spoke to the Minister of Interior earlier, who assured us that we would see Mr. President here today to deliver, an address to a joint session of the National Assembly. So the expectations are very high. Spirit is very high. We expect the arrival of the Chief of Staff, who was once the Speaker of the House of Representatives, to deliver his keynote address here at this event today. And also, we expect to see the commissioning of the library that will hold, key, historical documents of the National Assembly to ensure that, some of these, critical assets are not lost. That's the knowledge of the National Assembly. So a lot of things expected to come out from this place today. We still expect the arrival of Mr. President. Like I said, the expectations are high. We've seen his advance team. We've seen ministers. We all expect to see his arrival here at the National Assembly.
It must feel a little bit strange, though, because it's not coming to present the budget. Do you have more information about the way and manner this is going to work? Are we expecting to see an interaction session between him and members of the assembly, or is just going to address them and leave?
Yes, Nifemi, this would be the first of its kind, because normally when we see the president coming to address a joint session, it is for him to present the budget. But this is totally different. That is why a lot of people are skeptical. Is he going to come? Is he not going to come? But a lot of people believe that he's going to be here, and they say this is the first of its kind. Mr. President has shown that he is a president with a difference. He is the president that has the people in mind and more interactive. And, you know, I believe the president should be here because we see a bit of a rush here. So maybe that has put that skepticism to rest. But this is the first of its kind, like I said, and a lot of people look forward to what will come out of this outing, what they will hear from Mr. President in terms of what to expect in the next 3 years of his administration, and, you know, what he hopes to achieve in addition to what he has already achieved in his first year.
TJ Swadio, you're live for us at the National Assembly.
Yes, we have with us here.
Go ahead, TJ.
We have with us here the chairman. We have with us here the chairman of the House Committee on Defense, Babajimi Benson, and he's just going to tell us more about what to expect from this outing. So, sir, what should we expect, you know, from the arrival of Mr. President?
Yeah, we're expecting the father of modern-day Nigeria, the father of democracy, to come and address us and speak to us on the benefits of having enjoyed 25 years uninterrupted democracy. You know, so he's going to come here and tell us the attributes, what we should expect, how democracy has fared in Nigeria, and he being a key stakeholder. He remember during the trenches, he fought for the democracy we are enjoying today. Recall that a couple of years ago, we used to have a coup, and the first thing they suspend has always been the legislature. He being a key player in the legislature, he was a former senator, he's now president of Nigeria. He will give us his own perspectives on how the building blocks is built and where we hope to be in the shortest distance future.
So it's the first year anniversary. What is your assessment so far of Mr. President's performance?
I think Mr. President, everybody knows he's a brave man. The tough decisions he's taking, the unification of the exchange rate, the removal of subsidy, he's taking those tough decisions. So we're now building blocks to ensure that those tough decisions are ameliorated, because a lot of people are not finding things funny at the moment. But no pain, no gain. Yeah, so little pains we're experiencing now. I'm sure that in the fullness of time, we will all enjoy. I recall during his administration as a governor of Lagos State, the first 1 year, we've seen it before, the first 1 year, we were stuttering, but after the first year, we started flying. And I'm sure that Nigeria has the capacity, the capability to fly. And we have the right pilot to fly us to the promised land.
Well, it will be the first time that Mr. President will address a joint session that doesn't have to do with the presentation of the budget. What does this say about, you know, a man, President Bola Tinubu?
It's the first time in history. Most times when we do joint sessions, we do it for budget presentation. But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, our dear president, has the rare privilege. He's going to come here today and give us some nuggets on how we fared so far.
All right, we thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So as you see, the expectations are high. We expect a lot from Mr. President, and we still expect his arrival. We have already started to see some rumbling here, and we hope to see him very shortly to address the joint session of the National Assembly. We have another honorable member here with us to give us his thoughts. What are your thoughts on the visit of Mr. President to address the joint session of the National Assembly?
Okay, my name is Honorable Lanre Omolaye Oladebo.
All right.
We are happy the President is coming in here to address us. Actually, we don't know what he's coming to say, but we are a member of the opposition. We are willing to see what he's coming to tell us, and we hope it's going to be for the Nigerians. This is democracy at 25. Some of us are first time here. And I've been on the other side for 24 years. I'm here now to see how democracy is working. And we hope whatever he says will be good for Nigerians and will be good for all Nigerians. And we hope the budgets we have passed last year will be fully implemented by Mr. President so Nigerians can have benefits for democracy. And we are happy that it's coming in. We hope this will speed up the budget of 2024 to see how things go in Nigeria. And we are also grateful for the leadership of the National Assembly, especially our Speaker, Dr. Tajuddin Abbas. The way he has been leading the House, we're grateful, and we are happy that there is unity in the House. And we hope Nigerians are patient enough to see how this works out. So, but I'm also happy to speak to you guys, and happy that democracy, let's give it time. We know it's going to work, and we hope our security chiefs are listening and to what we're saying here. We need a lot of security in this country. That's one thing that's paramount to all of us. Security, 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 and our economy. Right. And we hope this will be improved. Thank you. Right,
thank you. There you have heard it. Security is the main priority for the lawmakers. Security and the economy. We have another honorable member, Honorable Sani Bala here with us. Let's hear his thoughts.
Thank you very much. I remain Honorable Engineer Sani Bala, representing Sanyawa Gari from Kano State. And we are happy here to be here to celebrate the 25th year of democracy in Nigeria since its inception without any break from 1999 to date. The main topical issue of discussion here is eradication of poverty and insecurity. Then maybe other things like basic infrastructure like road, water, electricity supply, and others can come in. Because if you check what is militating against the progress of the country now, especially producing of food and what and other things that has to do with agriculture, it has been hindered in the north, especially northwest and the northeast, and even the north central. And you produce almost 70% of Nigerian needs when it comes to agriculture from this cycle. So without sufficient security in the country, there will be hunger, there will be no employment, and there will be abject poverty. So that was why our topic of discussion mainly today, even when we started the plenary today, the discussion was only on how do we eradicate insecurity in the country? How do we eradicate insecurity in the land? How can we provide basic amenities and what have you, so that our people can feel a sense of belonging? It's not only celebrating the democracy, but what are the achievable things that we drive from democracy? So that is just the essence of being here, and we hope that the president will come, and when he comes, he will speak on these three topical issues as I mentioned.
And so far, what is your assessment of his performance so far in the last 1 year?
I'm very happy with his performance. We have to be patient. He's always say it. He didn't hide it. He said from the beginning when he started his policies, they might not be, welcome by Nigerians, but you should give it time. It's very easy for you to destroy something, but to rebuild it will take time. So that is why we have to take time to think in a positive way with the president, because he can never be there just to find things that will not go well for the Nigerians. I'm very sure he's thoughtful in his thinking, he's perfect in his thinking, and definitely we give him time. He has even said the reaping time is here. All the wahala that we have gone through, inshallah, maybe from any time from now, we start to reap the productivity of our labor.
All right.
So we are very happy with it, yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So you've heard it from the lawmaker. The lawmakers are quite happy with the performance of Mr. President, and they are appealing to Nigerians to give it time, to be patient, and definitely they will begin to see, the rewards and, the benefits of democracy as we have it. Back to you, Nifemi, in the studio.
Thank you, Tijesu, for the update there. We have some update. Will the president be addressing the joint session of the National Assembly? It looks like yes, he will. The Secretary of the Government of the Federation, George Akume, we understand, just walked into the National Assembly complex. And also, what will he be saying to them? I guess we'll find out in the coming hours. Tijesu Adeoye, thank you for the update. Let's get back to the studio where we're following closely developments with the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. I'm joined by the MD, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer. Mr. Sawyer, thank you so much for staying the course on the program. All right, so let's pick it up from where we stopped. We're talking about how do you get these funds back. And it sounds like you're saying, a self-employed person will, by of his own volition, decide to come back to the federal government and say, now I am self-employed, how do I pay these monies back? And I'm thinking, how realistic is that?
That's an entirely fair question, right? So look, what the law requires is for everybody who's taken a loan post NYSE, 2 years after NYSE, to make a declaration as to their current employment status.
Okay.
This applies to both the employed, or those who are looking for employment, and those who want to go into self-employment. So we don't ask for any reporting until 2 years after National Youth Service Corps has been completed.
Okay.
Once that happens, they report back to us, or we make contact with them if we haven't heard from them, to say, it's 2 years since your Youth Corps, what's your current employment status? It's very clear. If you are employed, then we will, and we're not receiving any remittances from your employer, we will ask the employer for the remittances, and if they don't or are not able to provide information as to how they're processing that and how they're doing it, there is an obligation on the employer, and effectively they can face serious fines or imprisonment even, the employer. Now, the self-employed effectively becomes a person that's employing themselves. So, in truth, you know, people know what the law is. We're going to make it very clear to them. When they're applying for the loan, they sign a declaration.
Okay.
If they don't make that reportage back to the NEL Fund, then actually it's quite serious. So, yes, there's a degree of trust, but of course there are also consequences for those who decide that they can pay but won't pay.
These monies, we're going to get back to where you're getting these monies from. But you mentioned that they're supposed to get back to you 2 years after NYSE. What happens if they don't have a job then? I left school some 15 years ago, and I still have a friend who calls me for a job that he's not been employed since.
Okay, that's the most unfortunate situation.
Very unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate, and you know, we have to sympathize with people who find themselves in that situation. Having said that, one thing that the fund, the NEL Fund, is not doing, or is not going to do, is go after people because they have finished NYSE at the 2 years down the line.
Yeah.
If they don't have a job, then it means they can't pay. If someone can't pay for a loan that they've taken to improve their own status in life and increase their own employability opportunities, if they don't have a job, they can't get a job, we can't get the loan from them. It's as simple as that. You know, so there's a subtle difference between can pay and won't pay and can't pay. If you can't pay, you can't pay. We're not going to go after people like that. It just wouldn't be fair, because the intention in getting this loan was to actually put themselves in a much stronger position. However, we believe that with all the other initiatives that His Excellency, the President, is putting in place, that, you know, Nigeria will be quite a different place in terms of employment and employability years down the line. And I think we're already seeing from some of the initiatives that the administration is taking in other areas, of which the NEL Fund is only one, that, you know, these things will join up later and actually make the situation much better. So again, to charge interest, okay? Certainly at the beginning of this process, we will not be charging interest, but there are specific situations and scenarios. For example, if people take the loan and then they go abroad and work and serve another nation, we can't stop them from doing that, but we can apply interest to such loans. So there are certain situations where interest can be charged.
So whoever takes your loan and then jackpots, you'll be waiting for them to return.
Well, you know, again, what we're not doing is we're not focused on setting traps for people. It's important to recognize that this loan comes from federation taxes. It's for people of Nigeria, and the idea is that we hope it will serve Nigeria. Okay, now, if you take the loan and don't pay back, what you're effectively doing is you're stopping somebody else
from getting the loan,
from getting the opportunity to get the loan.
Sure.
So it's quite serious. It's not that we're not going to set traps for people, but we're going to educate people that actually you've accessed it, you've had an opportunity, you've moved on, you've done better, therefore it is your responsibility. moral and otherwise, to repay so that other people can join the process.
Absolutely. We're going to be also getting back to some lives, and that I'll be informing the viewer. You can continue to watch this conversation on our YouTube page and also on other platforms. We're on Sky TV for viewers in the UK, and also on the Sky UK channel 524 and several other platforms that you can watch us with. But right now, we're joining the official commissioning of the Jimeta Grade Interchange by His Excellency Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, former President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, in Adamawa State. Stay with us, everyone, as we continue this programming on our other platforms. So I like the way you put it, that you are not necessarily putting, a yoke on the neck of people, but it's important that everyone who takes this loan also accepts the responsibility of paying back to benefit those coming, behind. I'd like you to talk to us about how this scheme is being funded.
Okay.
Where is the money coming from?
Okay. So the money effectively is coming, the amount in the first place is 1% of all federal taxes.
Okay.
So the Federal Inland Revenue Service, as it collects federation taxes, is required to remit 1% of those taxes to the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. Having said that, the law does allow the fund to raise funds from other places. So we can go out and source funds and investments for those who perhaps want to contribute to the fund. That then goes on top of the 1% of FIRS remittances to the fund.
From the figures, do you think we have the funds for this? You mentioned 1.8 to 1.9 million students,
yeah.
And you're looking at the possibility of perhaps 1.2 million. Do you think we have funds to start and to also sustain this program?
Okay, so I think it's important to recognize that this is an anchor program for Mr. President. He's been very focused, even from the campaign. He talked about the importance of education, the importance of education, and the importance of education. So I think that we have, and I think what you find generally in this part of the world is that if there's political will, then things work. I can tell you that His Excellency has the political will to drive this through. Therefore, I can confirm to you that the funds are available. Clearly, we don't have all the funds in one go because these are from federation taxes which need to be collected and then a portion allocated to the fund. But certainly the system that's been set up by this administration to ensure that this is a sustainable program from a financial perspective is robust. It's highly robust, it's highly effective, and it actually allows us to continue to drive excellence in terms of access to education. It's important for me to mention to you that if you look at other countries around the world, South Korea, for example, where they focus on academics and technological integration.
Yeah.
Look at countries like Finland, who looked at teacher professionalism. If you look at countries like Singapore, who focused on skills and innovation, and countries like Canada, who focused on things like developing a good learning environment, lifelong learning, also innovation, diversity and inclusivity. All of those seem to be the sorts of things that can actually take education in this country to another level.
Indeed.
We're focused on a small element of that, but if you look at the overall picture that this administration has put in place, it kind of captures those. And the countries I mentioned, you can see where they sit today. Education is critical. This administration recognizes that. So
apparently this is an investment for this administration in the education of people. Hopefully all those that need it take advantage of it. But if everyone ticks this box, you're a Nigerian, you're a student, you have your JAMB ID, your BVN, do you get back to students after the application as to why they were not picked for the loan? Because it seems that there are other criteria outside this one, as we earlier discussed.
Okay. So, yes, I think, for students who say, look, I applied properly, I've ticked the various boxes that I was required to tick, but I didn't get the loan. it is an obligation for us to be able to explain to them why they didn't. Otherwise, we leave them in a vacuum, and that's not really fair. A lot of people are looking forward to this. A lot of people are hopeful. This has been long coming. People have found all sorts of ways to fund their own education over the years. And now this is a break. This is an opportunity. This is a ray of hope, a ray of light. And of course, if that ray of light doesn't come through, there needs to be an explanation. And there's a multitude of reasons why people may not get this loan. But our focus is to try and give as many people as possible the opportunity to access this education. I think it's important to also say that the more people that are educated formally, the more people that are employed, the more people who perhaps are going to be able to go and explore entrepreneurial talents they may have, the greater the socio-economic impact that this is going to have, the greater the funds that are going to be available for the tax authorities to collect. So this is a sort of self-fulfilling program, that the more successful it is, the more funding it will get, the more institutions will spring up, the more class sizes there will be. You know, it will actually feed itself when it begins to kick in. The beginning is always the most difficult part. But once it begins to kick in and it starts on a cycle, it will feed itself and it will run itself. And I believe that, you know, this is going to change the game for Nigeria if we continue to stay the course and continue to let people understand that even if you don't get it now, you may get it at another attempt in the future, because there may be more funds or more spaces. Remember I said that, so one of the limitations we have is the capacity of the institutions we have today. Once we've given loans to fill that capacity, we can't give loans to other people who can't get access to classes or access to institutions. So that's a limited factor, and that's one of the explanations that might be given.
I like the way you put it. You know, the cycle looks simple, that if we get more people educated, it will amount to, you know, more innovation that will better develop the country, jobs and what have you. But how do you explain the situation where we're having some skyrocketing figure in the area of unemployment? So prior to this time, before empowering more students to get educated, the few who are even graduating have that tale to tell in the area of whether they are underemployed or whether they even get to do a job at all, and whether or not we are seeing, there's even another angle to it, whether or not we're churning out as many quality graduates who will not line up to wait for jobs like this. How critical is this to this program?
So I think it's extremely critical. And you know, if you look at any process, any program that you set up anywhere, the quality is always a little bit suspect at the beginning. As time goes on, if it's implemented properly, quality improves. I think one of the other things that we've obviously noticed is that investment will flow into a country where the people have the capacity to do the work that allows the investment to grow or to get a return. One of the big issues around this is, okay, so today we may have graduates who can't get jobs. But does that mean we stop educating people?
Absolutely.
Clearly not. We've got to grow the pool of people who want more knowledge, who can gain more knowledge, who have the capacity to acquire more knowledge. Because in effect, companies will come to Nigeria and invest. Foreign investment will come here if they feel that we don't just have bodies, i.e. numbers, but we have numbers that have skills that can help them with the production. Again, I can name a multitude of countries around the world, but I don't want to get into sort of, you know, naming countries. There are many countries in the world today that manufacture or have industry that serves other markets. We have 210 million people. We can do lots of manufacturing here. We've got the numbers. We can do all of this, and we can serve other markets and gain advantage for our dear nation.
Indeed. Indeed. So with the ongoing application process, is there a feedback mechanism where students who are attempting to be on this get back to you if they have issues with their application?
Yes, so we have lots of platforms that we've either created or that we're following to see what the issues, what are the trending issues, what are the challenges people are having. Based on the information we're getting from those platforms, we're putting out additional information. We're upgrading or updating the information we have to enable people to understand why they may be having those challenges. This is a constant learning process. And by the way, we're never going to get to the point where it's perfect. We're going to continue to learn. We're going to continue to understand what the challenges are. Because we don't want too much interface or any human interface in all of this, we're not encouraging people to come to us direct. So we don't want a situation where somebody says, hey, look, I can help you, but, help me to help you. We don't want that to happen. So we're using electronic channels. We're communicating with people. Sometimes it's the student that we need to communicate with, or the applicant, if you like.
But do you think that entirely, takes out the corruption tendency? Because the people applying online are real people. The people doing the selection are also real people. I hope you're not assuming that that completely erases the potential capacity or ability of someone in your system getting funds to help someone on the outside.
Well, what you can't do is completely eliminate all possibilities of conspiracies, of people trying to buck the system. You can't do that. I'm not going to sit here and say it's completely foolproof. No system is completely foolproof. What we're trying to do here is make it faceless. So whoever's making the application will never get to meet with the person who's making the decision or who's questioning the process. Clearly, for example, if somebody makes an application that is rejected for any reason and they want to know why, that case has to be evaluated and then we communicate back. But all of this is logged. So if there's a rejection for any reason and then there's a sudden change, we have a process that looks at what happens. We can audit that process to see if anything that shouldn't have happened, happened. It can happen. People are always looking for ways, all over the world, by the way, not just in Nigeria, bucking the system, seeing how they can get advantage over someone else. We are trying to ensure that that doesn't happen, in the first instance with what we're doing. And we're going to use continuous improvement strategies to ensure that we keep this as anonymized as possible.
How many applications have you gotten thus far?
So, again, we're in an ongoing process. I'd rather not comment on the numbers because, whatever number I give you now will change in the next 5 minutes.
What I am highly anticipated.
I'm sorry? Yeah.
This scheme was highly anticipated.
Yeah.
What I was asking is, did you experience a surge?
Okay. So, yes, we did. We did experience a surge. We had a good number of hits on our site, lots of people wanting to register. And clearly, what was good for us is that, we tested this rigorously to see that if we did get that surge, would it affect our technology? It hasn't. We've absorbed it. It's taken the numbers very nicely. But there has been a surge, and actually continue. As we carry on with our sensitization, the surge is growing. And we're very happy about that because, yes, there's been latent demand for this sort of scheme, and we are really getting a lot of interest, and we're very excited about that.
What was the number the last time you checked?
I can't remember. I know you're trying to...
Is it in the region of 100,000 and above? Just give me a figure.
You're not far off.
Okay.
You're not far off.
We've hit 100,000.
I didn't say that.
I need something for the newspapers to use.
I know you need something for the newspapers. One of the things I'm really trying to avoid is second-guessing the general public. And I do want people to be encouraged to apply. What I need you to know is that we've got enough funds to fund all the applications that we've had so far. And we will continue to get funds to fund a lot more. I really want people to continue to apply. And I want you to, the message I want the newspapers to put out is that there is capacity for more applications. Please continue to apply.
But you did say we're in the region of 100,000, so editors can take note.
I didn't quite say that. I said you're not far off. I didn't say how far off you might be or not. But to be fair, yes, we will be having a press conference fairly soon where we will release the figures, and those figures will go out to everybody at once. Because another thing that we want to try to do is to be fair with your great profession, the journalists, to say, look, we're not leaking or providing information for one house and not for the other. We'd rather just ensure that, because this is really a program of great interest, even to journalists, we want to be sure that we're giving that information in a fair manner and an accurate manner.
But trust me, you don't have to wait for the major press conference, to push out information. That's why we're here, and you're here in person. Whatever you say here can get out to every other person.
This is true. And the message I want to put out is that people should continue to apply. People should be encouraged that this is a fair process. And, I won't wait for the press conference to say that. I think when it gets to providing numbers, then really we need to be very specific and very accurate. And, I need to act responsibly as the managing director and provide accurate information. So I'm not being evasive. And the press conference is coming up in the next week or so. So
I understand it quite well. Let's talk about the early day challenges that you're faced with. Yeah, because you make it sound so simple, seamless, you're quite excited about it. I understand that. But you must be faced with some challenges. Sure. How are you, maneuvering that?
Sure. So the primary challenges that we're facing today, and we are facing some challenges, is ensuring that the information gets out there. There are many different channels that we need to employ, particularly the channels that people of the age and subset that are applying for this use. It's generally not newspapers, by the way. So social media channels is where the youth of this country tend to spend their time.
Absolutely.
So we're looking at that. And that's been a bit of a challenge for us because on the one hand, we want to educate the general public. On the other hand, we want to get directly through to the students or the applicants who are in that subset who perhaps get their own information from different places. I think one of the challenges that we face is misinformation. So people taking information, not reading it properly, not understanding it properly,
and interpreting it differently.
Yeah, and retweeting or resending that information in a way that is perhaps not so accurate. So we're having to spend a lot of time correcting misconceptions and misinformation. That's a big issue for us. We're going to have to educate so that we can provide access to education. So as an institution ourselves, we're having to do a lot of educating and re-educating and correcting and clarifying. And that's fine. We'll do that. But it will take time. We're going to have to wait for that information to come back. We don't want the rumor mill to take hold of this. We want to be on top of this. That's why, as frequently as possible, I'm trying to get out, others are trying to get out, so we can provide the right information. Your question about figures is very specific, but everything else we're prepared to share. We're doing videos, we're putting advertisements out, we're connecting with people who are people of great influence who can put out this information accurately. But that's an area of challenge for us, and I think it's going to continue for some time. Misinformation happens. There's also people who don't necessarily want this to work. The other area of challenge for us is data. Data accuracy is critical. We don't want to go to a manual process. Data accuracy is absolutely critical to us. And I mentioned earlier, a digit wrong here, an alphabet wrong there, a slash where it shouldn't be, where it should be a dash. When you're inputting into computer systems, can actually cause issues for people. And we just need to be sure that the data aligns.
One would, naturally think that ivory towers should lead in this regard, that our universities should have gotten hold of data management. What's your experience thus far in that regard? Okay, so,
indeed, the people that we're tending to deal with are academics, people who are very focused on research, statistics, numbers and things. However, what we're trying to do is create a standardized system, a standard template. Now, academics across the education spectrum, the tertiary education spectrum, don't necessarily use the same templates. They don't necessarily use the same criteria. So one of the things that we found is that even where the information is good, the way it's laid out is not necessarily the way that we want it. We have to standardize. And then of course, the approach, the requirement for high standards varies from institution to institution. We need to be flattened. We need to flatten it out. We need it to be flattened. We need to standardize. So part of the challenge we have is saying, hey, this is the way we want the information to give your students the best possible chance of getting the loan. Well, those are teething problems. We expect it. And we've expected it way before we launched. And we're working very closely with the institutions, the ICT departments within institutions, to ensure that the information is the way we need to have it and is as accurate as possible.
Absolutely. Misinformation, data accuracy. You didn't talk about funding. You have enough money, right?
Yeah, you know, I talked about political will earlier, and you know, I think what you may or may not be aware of is that there was an act that was signed into law on the 12th of June 2023.
All right.
Mr. President represented that law to the House and Assembly to the National Assembly for repeal and reenactment. That went through in a record time. I think it took about 3 or 4 days. Mr. President, the President, should I say, the President has absolutely put everything he can to ensure that Nigerians who need to get this education but are not getting it because of this financial issue, he's put everything behind it, so we do have the funds.
All
yes.
Right. Akintade Sawyer is the MD, Nigeria Education Loan Fund. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for having me here, Mr. Nifemi.
And I'm sure that we're going to return to this conversation subsequently to keep up with how much work you're doing and how much results you're getting.
Sure. May I just make a quick comment? I'd like to congratulate my country, Nigeria, on attaining 25 years of democratic governance. I'd like to congratulate this administration for being so bold. This project that we're doing is a bold one. I think this is what is required now, and I congratulate the President on his boldness and leadership.
Thank you, everyone, for being a part of it. We are back shortly with more conversation, I believe by 6 p.m. as we talk to more ministers and head of federal government agencies all the way down to 10 p.m. So it's a full day today. You don't want to change the dial. I'm Nifemi Ogutwe on behalf of everyone here in Abuja. Thank you for watching.
Information is power. Information is security. Information